So as you might imagine, one of the most unkept secrets in the world of sports was finally announced earlier in the day. Of course, Caitlin Clark was going to participate in the WNBA three-point contest. She's actually gone ahead and confirmed that. I do want to also point out that the city of Cleveland is still trying to figure out how to prevent the Cleveland Browns from building a new stadium in the suburbs outside, of course, of the city of Cleveland. Hey, welcome to The Nat, the show that actually believes sports is truly big business. We dive into what actually happens in the world of sports from a business perspective and provide you a daily brief. It is Tuesday, July 15th of the year 2025, and it is just after 5:30 here in the West Coast. As always, I'm Dave DeBaugh coming to you from the Silicon Valley. A big show for you today. We're going to get into what went down with the mass actual firings at Fox Sports yesterday, which of course was Bastille Day, which is of course, French Independence Day, not a very good day for a lot of people at Fox Sports. We'll get into who got fired, why they got fired, and who potentially is going to take over those coveted 3 hours of time slots that are now available over at FS1. In addition to that, we're going to talk about Jump, which is a fantastic new ticketing company. We're going to get into how they actually make it possible to actually sit in a nosebleed seat at the start of the game and then eventually end up courtside by simply upgrading your tickets in the middle of a game. It's an absolutely great idea, which is actually about to tip off this upcoming NBA season at Target Center with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Also going to talk about Apple versus ESPN and where we are at that, at least tonight, and a little bit of information for you on the WNBA ratings. I've got all of that, and as always, trust me, a whole lot more. Now, this is our very first episode of the Nat Reports. I thought we would actually go ahead and tip things off just quickly talking about the WNBA ratings, which is then going to backfire or backfall into the actual ratings from Monday night's Major League Baseball Home Run Derby, which were absolutely fantastic numbers for them. Now, the WNBA ratings as a whole for ABC have been up about 7% so far this year over last year, which is actually really saying a lot if you consider just how great the ratings actually were last year. Now, in the last game that Caitlin Clark actually played on ABC or ESPN, and she's, by the way, currently playing right now on ESPN with the Indiana Fever currently up 32-30 in Connecticut over the Sun. There's a real-time update for you right there. That being said, their ratings for the game the Fever had over the weekend at home against Dallas was a 2.1. So 2.1 million people actually tuned in to watch Beckers versus Caitlin Clark play. It was the fourth highest rated WNBA game of the season so far for ABC. Now, ABC certainly got lucky because Caitlin Clark has missed 10 games, and none of those actually affected the games in which ABC and ESPN had been scheduled to actually televise Caitlin Clark's games. So, last night on Bastille Day, Major League Baseball had their home run derby, and I had a chance to actually sit down and watch most of it, and I thought it was a fantastic show and performance and highly entertaining, as they almost always are. Now, the peak of Major League Baseball was certainly a long time ago, and it's been struggling over the years to bring people back. Now, Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred has actually done an extremely nice job figuring out how to change things to the point where people are actually going to be willing to actually go to a game and are actually going to be willing to watch games on television once again, which is why the ratings have started to actually go up in the right direction. I know sometimes you got to fall so far that no matter what you do, your ratings are going to go up. But still, Major League Baseball All-Star Game, at least the home run derby ratings were 5.7 million people actually tuned in, which was an extremely strong number when you also consider that, like Aaron Judge didn't participate in the competition. So you had a lot of younger players that you probably haven't heard of before unless you are actually a baseball junkie. All right. Elsewhere around the world of sports, some other important topics. We're going to get into the Fox Kills the 3 shows in just a little bit, but super quick, I wanted to touch base on F1 Cup and the new media rights deal, which is currently being negotiated. It's a 3-way negotiation at this point. And in fact, this is one of those times where I think Liberty Media, who is the parent company who actually owns Formula One, who's done an absolutely fabulous job with Formula One, especially in North America. The Drive to Success show is just a major success. We know that the Brad Pitt F1 Cup movie has done well north of $300 million just in its first 2 weeks in release, and will probably end up somewhere around $500 million in box office, if not higher. So there's been a lot of success there. ESPN had been paying about $90 million a year. And of course, as you all know, this is the last year of their contract. And so they were trying over at ESPN to figure out what they were going to do. And I think they thought maybe we'll go back towards Major League Baseball, and then they didn't. And then they decided to actually go back towards F1 Cup, which of course, I'm not trying to compare the amount of races that F1 Cup has versus an entire Major League Baseball season, and what it would actually cost ESPN to actually broadcast an entire Major League Baseball season, or at least a portion of it. But still, ESPN went ahead and made an offer. Now, Apple, knowing or having a good idea of what that offer probably was, went ahead and created an offer that the folks over at Liberty Media couldn't ignore. Rumors have it that that offer was north of $150 million a year to actually broadcast all of the F1 Cup races in North America. That is a significant leap, obviously, from $90 million. Now, normally, this is what happens in new media rights negotiations. We see significant leaps forward from a dollar amount perspective. So I'm not terribly surprised, considering just how Formula One has actually performed in North America over the past 10 years now, that you'd see a significant leap. What I was anticipating, though, was that ESPN would probably come in and match it, and then we'd end up with a bidding war that would ultimately move the needle to something close to $200 million. Now, if Liberty Media really wants to get $200 million out of Apple and ESPN on an annual basis, my recommendation to them is to pick up their NBA hotline, use the red phone, and call Commissioner Adam Silver, because nobody's a better expert at negotiating multiple packages than Adam Silver is for, let's face it, a league that has declining ratings. So I think Adam Silver certainly could figure out how to get both Apple and ESPN to pony up for separate packages, probably get F1 Cup north of 200 million, maybe something around 250 million, if they actually went down that path of breaking it up. Now, I doubt that's actually what's going to happen. And clearly, ESPN has a bigger reach. In my opinion, this is just all about ESPN at this point. Are they willing to actually pay as much as Apple wants to pay? And if they're not, then this is actually going to end up with Apple. And for those people that don't think that Formula One can grow on the Apple streaming service, I think you people are unfamiliar with just how successful Formula One has actually been as a result of a television show on Netflix. Of course, Drive to Success is what I'm actually talking about there. And then finally, actually two stories to go. Second story I want to cover is about Jump, which is a ticketing a company, which was actually started by Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez, both of which are now the official owners as of last week of the Minnesota Timberwolves. They started to build this ticketing company a while back, and they went ahead and closed their deal to officially become the owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves. As we know, that was officially announced last week. All of that paperwork, which took like 4 years to get done, is finally done. The X's and the T's and all of those things have been crossed at this point. So Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry had invested in this other company, which has some interesting takes on what ticketing should actually be. And basically what their system, this company Jump, allows them to do is you could have a nosebleed seat at the start of the game. And as the game goes on, if it's a blowout and you're watching the game and you see a bunch of seats open up in the lower bowl in the fourth quarter, you could simply upgrade your seat from where you're at in real time. This is an absolutely brilliant system that the team is actually putting in place. Now, Jump is actually going to become the official ticketing agency of both the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Minnesota Lynx, starting with the upcoming Minnesota Timberwolves season 2025/2026. They will also carry and handle a wide variety of other events at Target Center, where the Timberwolves and Lynx both play. An absolutely brilliant idea. Can't wait to see how this works. I'm sure this will cause some of the other big ticketing companies to actually copy them as well. And finally, I wanted to touch base just a little bit on what Fox did with their Bastille Day massacre yesterday over at FS1, where they got rid of Breakfast Ball, the facility, and Speak has been made speechless at this point, or silenced, I should say. Speak has been silenced at this point. So, of course, we've all heard the stories about Joy Taylor and what happened with who and executives and other people on the air and all that stuff. But beyond all of that, let's just really be honest with each other for a second about what this really was all about. This was really just all about ratings. Had very little to do with what happened with Joy Taylor and those lawsuits at this point. This was just the fact that Fox, FS1, outside of The Herd, which is a great show, and outside of First Things First, which is also a great show, haven't been able to figure out the other 3 time slots that they've been trying to fill for years. And these last 3 attempts, quite frankly, didn't really work out at all. And if you take a look at the ratings, they were not getting better. They were actually getting worse. Now, a lot of really good people lost their jobs. There's a lot of, there's also some young up and coming sportscasters like a Danny Parkins, who I think is excellent and does a really good job. I'm sure the team over at Fox will find a way to keep Danny involved with the network. Maybe one of the new shows will somehow involve him. Now, rumors of the street initially have Kay Adams, who's currently on the FanDuel network, as a possibility of somebody that might end up at Fox. There's always been the Max Kellerman rumor that has certainly floated around as well. There is probably no chance in hell that Skip Bayless is actually going back to Fox at this point. But you know his representatives have made a phone call. That is where we are at this point as Fox goes ahead and cleans house. I think what you'll ultimately see, and I think it would be great to see Kay Adams and Max Kellerman probably on different shows. Maybe Max Kellerman paired with a Danny Parkins could be kind of an interesting a take on a First Take style show. But I don't know where they're going to head exactly. Another thought is to actually look to YouTube at some of the really successful shows that we've seen on YouTube over the past couple years, and maybe just do what ESPN's done with the Pat McAfee show and simulcast one or two of those shows across FS1, which is certainly a possibility as well. All right. Listen, I want to thank everybody for tuning into our very first episode of The Nat. This is the show where we dive deep into the business world of sports. Sports is certainly big business, and it is our goal on a daily basis to try to give you some of the latest and greatest and updated news as it happens. Thanks so much once again for tuning in. Please go ahead and like and subscribe. Do check out our blog as well, which is a Substack at thenat.substack.com. All right, for The Nat, I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show